Hello and welcome into the backfield. I'm your host Connor Schaff, and today I will be giving you my final NFL predictions prior to the start of the season. We have a very exciting season coming upon us, and I just am so glad that football is finally back. This Thursday we get to watch the Eagles most likely beat down on the Cowboys, while we have to torture ourselves before we can watch what should be a much better game in the Chargers and Chiefs on Friday. And then we get our first NFL Red Zone Sunday for the year. It should just be a great weekend of games. I will say, if you are a college football fan, make sure to check out my video I released yesterday giving my top 25 rankings. And also, if you want some more NFL content, I just also released my NFL tier ranking, which is a little different than this predictions video. So I talk a bit more about each team individually compared to things like their schedule and stuff like that. So with that being said, I don't want to hold you guys for too long, so let's get right into it. So for each division, I'm going to go over their 2024 season before, or the 2024 rankings before going over the 2025 schedule. So we are going to start with the AFC East and do the AFC as a whole, where you can see that the Bills won the division, followed by the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Patriots. The Patriots obviously were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, and the Bills were one of the Super Bowl contenders. And we look at how that changes for my predictions going into this year, and that sees the Bills taking first place once again in the division. And compared to last year, they are first place in the AFC as a whole. As you can see on the graphic here, the ranking on the left-hand side of your screen is their divisional ranking. The ranking you see on the right-hand side of the screen is their conference ranking, and the two numbers you see there in the middle are their win-loss ratios. So the Bills here, I have getting 12 wins compared to 5 losses. I have the Dolphins going 9-8 and finishing 10th in the division, the Patriots going 8-9 and finishing 11th in the division, and the Jets finishing in 4th, going 6-11, finishing last in the division. And really the big takeaway from here is, one, I think the Bills will continue their form. Josh Allen will have another MVP caliber season, and I think the defense will likely be a bit improved compared to last year, which will really help out this team. And yeah, I just think they're going to be really good, and to no surprise of anyone, of course. And then obviously the other big takeaway here is that the Patriots improve all the way to 8-9, and I think the Patriots are a team poised for a breakout year this year, especially given I did go through and predict every game using this website, so this is a fully accurate prediction to what I think the team will do record-wise. And honestly, I was surprised by how comfortable the Patriots schedule will be during the year. And they have a lot of winnable games on this schedule, so I think it is possible that they could even make the playoffs if they get lucky a little bit. But in a year where I think the field is closed up quite a lot, I think that's going to be quite difficult. But an 8-9 season coming off of their season from last year is still very impressive. But let's move on to the AFC East, where, oh well, no, not this isn't the AFC East, this is the AFC North. I didn't update it clearly. Yeah, we are going to start off with the 2024 standings for the division, where the Ravens won it, finishing 3rd in the conference. The Steelers coming home in 2nd, the Bengals in 3rd, and what was a massive disappointment for them, and the Browns down in 4th. And we look at how this changes for this year. Once again, reminder, this is the AFC North, not the AFC East, where I have the Ravens finishing 11-6, finishing 2nd place in the division. The Bengals return to form, finishing 10-7 and 5th place in the division. The Steelers continue their streak of always finishing with a winning record, but no better, finishing 8th in the division, and the Browns finish last in the division, going 2-15 and finishing last place in the conference. Starting off with the Ravens, I think the Ravens will have a very good season once again. I think it'll be a little tougher for them, expecting the Bengals to be a lot better over the course of the season. But I do still think they'll get the job done and finish in first place in the division. Then we have the Bengals returning to the playoffs after their 1-year absence. I expect the Bengals to get off to a much better start this season than they did last year. But I think it is possible that things could go wrong once again. But I'm a Joe Burrow believer. I think this team will recover well. And I think the defense will be at least improved enough to where they can win a couple more games. I still don't think it's going to be good, but I think it will do the job to where the offense that will probably end up being the best in the NFL can get the job done in a lot of games. Then we have the Steelers. They go from being in the playoffs last year to missing out on the playoffs, and that's really just because the field tightens quite a bit. I don't know. Let's see. So I do have them losing one less game this year. I really don't even think it's that much of a fault of Aaron Rodgers in this situation for me. I just think it'll be a tough schedule for them. But I do still think they'll get their expected winning record. And then the Browns are down here at the bottom. I don't think the Browns will be good. My guess is they'll make a quarterback change mid-season, but I don't really think it'll matter who's in there. The roster is just quite awful. Then we have the AFC South, where we'll start with the 2024 standings, where the Texans win the division, the Colts come home in second, the Jaguars in third, and the Titans finish in fourth, last place in the entire NFL. And this year I have really no changes, despite all four teams performing slightly better, actually. So the Texans I have going 10-7 once again, but that is good enough for third this year, just based on a tiebreaker. I think that CJ Stroud will have a bit of a better season than he did last year. He did struggle significantly at times, and I think it will be better for him this upcoming season. I think that hopefully he'll be helped by the rejuvenated wide receiver room that just dealt with so many injuries last year, and you get a couple of rookies in there, you get Christian Kirk in there to aid Nico Collins, so it should be a pretty interesting receiving room. Obviously, it seems like Joe Mixon is not going to be healthy for the season. You bring in Nick Chubb, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. I don't think this is going to be a great team, but this is a bad division, so you still get the job done. The Colts, I think people are way underrating how mid the Colts can be as a team. I've been a fan of this team, as you can see there, for my entire life, and I'm very used to this team being very mid, and 9-8 or 8-9 is about as mid as it gets. And it's not going to be good enough for the playoffs for the Colts, as usual, but I do still think 9-8 is a pretty fair prediction for them. The Jaguars, I think, will improve to 6-11. My big prediction for the Jaguars, I think we'll have serious questions after this year, about whether Trevor Lawrence should really continue to be the starter for this team. I don't think he's going to have a good year. And then the Tennessee Titans also improved significantly to 6-11. I think Cam Ward will have a decent enough year, and I think the weapons around Cam Ward will do their job in a way that they really didn't do around Will Levis and Mason Rudolph last year. And then we have the AFC West from last year with three teams that made the playoffs, with the Chiefs coming up in first, the Chargers in second, and the Broncos in third, and then the Raiders in fourth. And this year, funnily enough, I thought the entire time I was doing the predictions that the Chargers wouldn't make the playoffs for me. I really am not that high on the Chargers this year, but they do still get the job done just by a tiebreaker. But I have the Chiefs winning the division, not as comfortably as they have in past years. I think this will be a bit of a struggle year for the Chiefs, but I do still have them winning the division, coming home in 10-7, finishing in fourth. My big concerns there is just Travis Kelce being able to keep his form. I think their running back room is very concerning. Their offensive line is very concerning. And their defense should be good, but there are some contract disputes you're dealing with Trent McDuffie, and Chris Jones isn't getting any younger, so I think there are some concerns there too. I definitely think the Broncos, if there's any team to dethrone the Chiefs this year, it will be the Broncos. I have them finishing 9-8, finishing 6th in the division. I'm really like the Broncos this year. I think it's possible they do even better than what I have them at. I think they have a bit of a difficult schedule, so I think it'll be tough for them. But I think they get the job done, make the playoffs at 9-8. The Chargers, like I mentioned before, I am not very high on them this year, but they do get the job done and make the playoffs for me. I think Justin Herbert will have a good year, but not a great year. My big concern is the defense with this team. And I think you'll be very reliant on a Jim Harbaugh masterclass on the defensive side of the ball because you just don't have a lot of guys there anymore. Obviously, Joey Bosa leaves. Khalil Mack isn't getting any younger. Same thing with Derwin James. And outside of those two guys, you just don't have a lot more talent on this defense. So I definitely think there are some concerns there. And the Raiders, even though they don't make the playoffs for me, I do have them improving. I think Geno will be a breath of fresh air for this team, but it won't be enough to make a run at the playoffs. So now we'll move on to the NFC East, where last year the Eagles finished in the first seed, the Commanders in the second seed, the Cowboys in the third seed, and the Giants in the fourth seed. And then this year I have a much more bunched up division, where I have the Eagles just taking the first seed. They finished third in the conference at 10-7. And you know what? I don't even think that it has anything to do with the Eagles falling off at all. I just think their schedule is quite tough. And honestly, same thing with the Commanders. I want to give the Commanders a better record, but it just didn't work out with their schedule. The Cowboys, I think, will be one of the more surprising teams in the NFL just because people are so down on them at this point. Realistically, a Dak Prescott-led Cowboys, if he can stay healthy for the full year, should finish 9-8 at least. That should be the expectation of this team. I get you lose Micah Parsons. You hope that your rookie Donovan Ezeraku can step in and do a job there. That your second-year player Marshawn Kneeland from Kansas State can do a job there. I don't think you're incredibly concerned about your pass rush. I think you have one of the better secondaries in the NFL still. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys can do this year, but I think people are probably being a little too harsh on them. And the Giants, as you can see, are one of those other teams I think will be much improved this year. I honestly think if you look at the Giants roster, it's actually pretty good. My assumption is Jackson Dart will come in and start for this team after a few games, and to be honest, I think he deserves to. If it was up to me, I would have Jackson Dart as the starter day one. I don't really see the benefit of starting Russell Wilson, but on the positive side, what does Russell Wilson give you? Consistency to an extent. And I like the receiving room for this team. I like the offensive line, and the defensive line for this team might be the best in the NFL, led by new draft pick Abdul Carter, as well as Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. It's just a great line. Maybe your secondary you're a little concerned about, but I think you still have a lot of good options there. But let's move on to the NFC North. And in 2024, the big story here was the Vikings having one of the most ridiculously impressive seasons you'll ever see. I'll be honest, I think I had the Vikings going 6-11, 7-10 maybe last year, and they went 14-3. Just an exceptional overperformance from them. But yeah, the Lions end up finishing first last year with a 15-2 record, finishing first in the conference. The Vikings were in second, going 14-3, finishing fifth. The Packers went 11-6, and the Bears went 5-12. Now for this year, I actually still have the Lions as the 1 seed, but with much less comfort than they did last year, finishing 11-6. And then in second, I have the Packers also finishing 11-6, getting the 5th seed in the NFC. I have the Bears becoming much improved. I have them finishing 9-8, and the Vikings finishing in last with 8-9. Now the Lions, I think the big concern with them is just losing your offensive and defensive coordinators. Will they be able to still give you that same production that they were able to last year on both sides of the ball. I think your big concern really is with the offense, with them taking a big step back, which honestly I do think they will to an extent, but I do still find their schedule pretty favorable and they'll get the job done. Obviously, the Packers add Micah Parsons. I don't even know if I would have had the Packers as a playoff team before this move, so having them at 11-6 shows you how impactful I think it'll be. I'll be honest with you, my big criticism of the Packers is I just don't think Jordan Love is that great of a quarterback. I'm happy to be proven wrong over the course of this year, but we will see if he can really get the job done. And third, I think the Bears will be much improved. I think this is the team hurt most by the Packers signing Micah Parsons, because I think they might have been a playoff team otherwise, but I think it'll be a bit tougher now that you are at best the third team in the division coming into the start of the year. And I do think they'll be so much better. I think Caleb Williams will have a major breakout year, but I just don't think it'll be quite enough. Then in fourth, they have the Vikings, and I don't want this to come off as that I think the Vikings are going to be bad. I actually think the Vikings are going to be very good, but I just think they're going to be the fourth best team in what is easily the best division in football, and I think J.J. McCarthy will do enough to make people excited about his future. And next up, we have the NFC South, where I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finishing at the top and finishing in third. Oh, wait. Well, I will have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but this is the 2024 standings, where the Buccaneers were in first with a 10-7 record. The Falcons finished in second, the Panthers in third, and the Saints in fourth. A funny little tidbit here. I made my graphic in my head having the Saints ahead of the Panthers, because obviously the Saints had a later draft pick than the Panthers. The Panthers had pick 8, the Saints had pick 9. But actually, if you just look at the conference and divisional tiebreakers, the Panthers finished ahead of the Saints. So it's interesting how those things work out sometimes. But if we look at the 2025 standings, they are in the same order, but the win totals move around just a little bit. I think the Buccaneers will actually have a bit of a better season than they did last year, finishing at 11-6, second in the division, or second in the conference. The Falcons improve a little bit, going 9-8, finishing 9th in the conference. The Panthers go 6-11, and the Saints go 4-13. I think the Buccaneers are just a very complete, good roster. And then you bring in Emeka Egbuka to pretty much injury-proof your receiving room. I think you are very excited if you're a Bucs fan, because this is just such an exciting roster to me. And I think this team is on the verge of becoming a Super Bowl contender if everything comes together. Then we have the Falcons finishing in second. I think they're going to be okay. This is one of those teams that I think are going to be very mid this year. I think your defense you're a little more excited for, given your two new rookies in Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. My guess is they'll get a lot of snaps, and I think they'll both have very good seasons. But I just don't think this roster has enough oomph to make it into the playoffs. And then I have the Panthers in third. I actually think the Panthers will have a much improved season. But weirdly, I feel like the Panthers have quite a difficult schedule for being in such a garbage division. So I end up having them finishing 6-11. And the Saints are in the same tier with the Browns as the two worst teams in the NFL this year. They finish last. And finally, we have the NFC West, where last year the Rams finished 10-7, winning the division on tiebreak ahead of the Seahawks, also at 10-7. The Cardinals finished 8-9, and the 49ers, who were just destroyed by injuries last year, finished 6-11. And this is where one of the big changes happened, where I have the Rams winning the division once again. But I actually have the 49ers making the playoffs. Now, if you watched my tier ranking video, you'll know that I am so low on this 49ers team. I don't like this team at all. But I think that they might have one of the easiest schedules in NFL history. And because of that, they end up making the playoffs. So take that as you will. I don't think this team is good, but because of their schedule, they get into the playoffs. And then I have the Seahawks and the Cardinals both at 7-10. I think the Seahawks the Seahawks, I just don't like Sam Darnold. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think they're really going to struggle behind Sam Darnold. But I still think this team always finds a way to win games. I think they'll still get 7 to 8 wins during the season. And then the Cardinals, it's an okay roster. You didn't make a ton of improvements to the team, so I don't think this team is going to be much improved compared to last year. Maybe they could find a couple more wins in their schedule, but I think this is a pretty fair placement for them. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go through our playoff predictions. This isn't really the focus of the video, so I'm just going to run through these pretty quickly. I more wanted to go over my my record and standings predictions, but let's go through this pretty quickly. Starting off with the Ravens versus the Chargers, the Texans versus the Broncos, and the Chiefs versus the Bengals. And I'm going to have the Ravens winning, advancing, the Broncos advancing, and the Chiefs advancing. Obviously, the big game here is the Chiefs and the Bengals. I just think the Chiefs have that it factor in the playoffs. The Texans obviously lose to the Broncos here. I think the Texans are really just in that 3 seed because of their division. I think the Broncos will be a very good team this year. Then in the divisional round, we have the Bills versus the Chiefs and the Ravens versus the Broncos, where I have the Bills and the Ravens advancing. Am I really just doing this because I want to cope that the Chiefs won't make the Super Bowl again? 100%, but that is what we're doing. Fight me if you disagree. And then we have the Bills and the Ravens. I'm going to pick the Bills. I think this is their year. I'm very high on this roster. I think that there's a lot to like about it. And them advancing to the Super Bowl. So then on the other side, we have the Buccaneers versus the Commanders, the Eagles versus the 49ers, and the Rams versus the Packers. And I have the Commanders advancing once again 2 years in a row over the Buccaneers, the Eagles advancing over the 49ers, and the Packers advancing over the Rams. I don't think there's a ton controversial here. I think the Bucs are really where they are partly because of their division. The Eagles are still once again a Super Bowl contender, and the Packers are a very, very good team still. Then that leaves us with the Lions versus the Commanders in the divisional round, as well as the Eagles and the Packers, where I will have the Lions and the Eagles advancing. The Lions get their revenge over the Commanders 1 year later, and the Eagles get the job done versus the Packers. And that leaves us with the Lions-Eagles Conference Championship, where I'm going to have the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl for the 2nd year in a row. I just really like this Eagles roster. I think this team just has the experience to get the job done once again, which is why I have a Bills versus Eagles Super Bowl. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Bills just because I don't want to pick a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, because that is boring. So that is my prediction for the NFL season. Make sure to let me know your predictions for the season. Let me know who you think is going to playoffs. Let me know who you think is going to stink up the place. Let me know who you think is going to win the Super Bowl and everything in between. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Give this video any interaction you can, as it'll all help grow the channel. Thank you guys so much, and have a good one. Bye.